Again, you should be using git bash for this. Git bash gives you Linux commands. Okay, so first command, just type cd space tilde, and that's going to put you in your home directory. Okay, and then cd into your NMC directory. If you don't have your NMC directory in your home, then just make that directory. You can do that by typing make mkdir space a directory name. Okay.
What is that thing called? The one after CD on the third row?
That's a tilde.
Oh, tilde. Okay.
That's a squiggly line. Okay. All right. If you're helping each other, that's fine, but just kind of keep the volume down a little bit. Inside, you're going to make this directory here, mkdir week 5 web layouts. This is just to help you guys organize, okay, what you're at. If you've done that and you've CD'd into week 5 web layouts, this portion we're done. Okay, so I'm going to just scoot this over here for a second, and we're going to switch to VS Code. We're going to go to File, Open Folder, click on our week 5 web layouts and open it. Okay. Everyone with me so far? Okay, if you've opened up week 5 web layouts at this point, you should be good.
Oh, open it in VS Code.
Okay. All right, next thing, you can click the icon here for a new file. We'll just call this our first web layout. We'll just call it standard layout.html. Okay, and we'll create a second one, and we'll call this grid underscore layout.html. So you should have 2 HTML files. Okay. In your standard HTML, standard layout HTML, go ahead and type HTML. Let Visual Studio Code, give you the majority of this, and go to HTML:5, hit enter. I'm going to minimize this column here so we can see the code a little bit better. Okay, you should have this. Okay, let's create a standard web page layout. Okay, so first of all, go ahead and just give it a title document so we know what this is. This is a default web page layout. Okay. And inside of our body, we're going to create, you could create a div, or you could use the HTML5 tag. Does anyone know what tag that is for header?
Tag, header.
Yeah, I kind of gave it to you, didn't I? All right, header, right? And inside header, we're going to do an H2 element. Okay. And what's your favorite coffee shop?
Marv's Kitchen.
Marv's Kitchen is your favorite coffee shop?
The one that doesn't rings a bell.
I mean, I saw your assignment, okay, so it's ringing a bell, but
Trying to put that plug in. So.
is that like a family business, or?
Yeah, I just started.
All right, Marv's Kitchen,
Yeah. Try that.
the best coffee shop ever. Maya's kitchen? All right. Is that how you spell Marv's?
Yep.
Or do you use an E in it?
We use a Z to kind of like relate to the younger generation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm trying to think of the words my son would use at this point. That is crunk, or what did they say? I don't know. Anyways. All right, so we got a standard layout, right? That's in the header, right? We're going to go on for now, and underneath your header, just hit enter, and we'll give this a break line. And then underneath that, we'll use the main tag. Now, does anyone know why it might still be good to use the old style instead of these HTML5 tags? Anyone know why? Yeah, does your grandmother have a computer? If your grandmother didn't even have a computer. Okay. I should ask the question, does she have a browser, right? You all would say no, she didn't have a computer. But older browsers, people who don't update their computers very regularly, I ran into this problem all the time with my mom and dad. I talked them into getting a computer many years ago, and then they got a computer, and all they ever did was play solitaire. I would come home and visit, and I would see my mom in there going, watch this, a perfect score. And I'm like, oh dear, right? But when they would load their web browser, it would crash because they never would update their computer. So sometimes you got to think about, what's best for everybody, right? All right. In this case, we're just going to go on though, and we're going to keep it as a main section. But let's go ahead and put something above this first. Above it, we'll create a nav, right? And inside the nav, we're going to do a couple of links. So we'll do a:*link. And for simplicity right now, we're just going to use a hashtag. And let's do menu. Do another a:*link. Do a hashtag. What's something else at Marv's Kitchen we might like?
The show file.
Well, I mean, that would be on the menu.
So that,
How about history?
history.
All right.
It's a very short one.
It's a very short history. All right. And a third menu item. Third navigation item. What do you think? About. Okay. Very simple, right? Very simple information. All right. So we have our nav. Underneath that, we have our main. And let's just put down here remaining content. Okay, so at this point, if you try to view this page, okay, if we click on, let me go to this one instead. We go up here and open a file. Okay, if you can open up, if you're on Windows, go to File Explorer, navigate down to the NMC directory to Week 5 Web Layouts. Okay, and we're going to open up the standard layout. Okay, so there's Marv's kitchen right now. Where's my VS Code at? There we go. Very basic information. So let's add some CSS to it to make this more interesting. So we'll just call this standard.css. Standard layout.css. So we know what it is. All right. First thing first, I shared with you all a Google Doc. Okay? And that Google Doc, you should see this information. And I already have a number of people in it. Awesome. So we're only going to copy from this section here. Okay? Only copy from the top comment lines down to this bottom comment line. Okay? Go back to your Visual Studio Code and just paste that in. Okay? All right. You guys good so far?
Sorry, can you go back one step?
Hang on.
So you're going to copy from right here. Okay? Caleb, are you with us?
Wait, hang on.
Elijah,
Yes.
are you with us?
Yes.
Okay.
Hang on.
So you're going to copy this information. Okay? You see the area I've got it highlighted, right? Okay, so copy that and paste that into your CSS file that we talked about.
Okay.
All right. Can someone tell us why we want to use a reset CSS first? This was one of those readings that you guys hopefully did, right? Why would we use a reset? Go ahead.
Should I have someone else answer?
If you go ahead.
Okay, it's to ensure you have as much control and to eliminate browser as much browser specific styling as possible.
Yes. Yes. To eliminate as much browser specific styling as possible. So, what is your favorite browser? Who likes Chrome? Raise your hand. Okay. Who likes Firefox? Who uses Safari? No one. Who has an iPhone? You have an iPhone? Okay, if you have an iPhone, you're probably using Safari, right? Who uses Opera?
I use Vivaldi.
Vivaldi?
Yes.
Okay, I've never heard of that one. Edge? Anyone use Edge?
No.
Yeah? What about Microsoft Internet Explorer?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, okay.
I use Netscape.
There's no way Netscape is still around. All right. So let's go back. We're going to load up our code here. And
Control S.
so we've pasted this into our standard layout.css. You guys know what I'm going to ask you to do next. We're going to go up here inside of the head, not the header, the head. Type link. Choose the CSS option. And of course, you're going to change this to standard layout CSS. And this is why I love Visual Studio Code. Okay, it saves time in typing. Okay, so just hit enter and it's going to paste in. It'll paste in that link CSS. Okay?
Wait equals.
Can I see the full version? I think I'm a bit left behind.
Which one?
I'm in where you put the remaining content. Where is it?
This one here?
That's no you. Oh, you use CSS.
Okay. So standard layout.css. We pasted this in. This is the reset code. Okay.
Oh.
And here we're linking to it, the standard layout CSS. Okay? All right, let's reload this page. Minor changes have occurred. right? Some of the changes that we notice right away is that the H2 has been minimized, right? And we can see that where? Let's take a look here. We can see that right here. Here's the H1, H2, H3, H4. We're given a font size of 100%. The font is supposed to inherit. So it's just basically wiped out everything, right? Made everything standard. Okay? All right. Let's take a look at this though, because we want to do a few changes. So the first change we're going to do is in our standard layout. Let's go down here to the bottom. Okay. Go down to line 22.
Wait,
Okay.
wait, how did you get that text pop up when you hovered over border spacing? Wait.
I just hover over it.
Oh, you.
Oh.
Okay. All right. First thing we're going to do is talk about the header. We want to specify something with the header. Let's make the header the background color of Marv's Coffee, best coffee shop ever, green.
Background header.
Okay.
Wait.
Let's do a padding on all sides of 15 px. Let's set the text align to be center. Now, we're specifying a header, right? This is an actual HTML element. So I'm going to click back over here real quick. Okay. We'll refresh it. This is what we have so far. We have just a very basic layout, right? Okay. So let's specify something else here. Let's say header H2. We want a font size of what? What do you think it should be? Let's do an EM size. What do you think? 0.125 EM? Let's see what it does. It's too small, right? Let's do a... Still too small. All right, let's do a 1 in front of it. Let's save it first. There we go. That's a little better. Let's do a 2.125 EM. Okay. Now, we also want this to stand out a little bit more, right? So what is something else we could do for the header? We can make...
Bold?
Very good. Very good, Elijah. We'll set a font weight, which is bold. Now we have that. Let's go back up before the header and set in our body a font family. Now, as you can see here, I've got a bunch of font families that I could use. And there's 100 different ways to do this. We could go out, of course, and get a web font and put it in here.
Arial.
You like Arial, huh? Or we could use just one of these other font families. The rule of thumb is on websites, you want to go for a sans serif font. Now, there's many different variations you could go for. But if we take a look at, let me just pull this out a little bit. Is it going to give us? No, it won't give it to us. Let's go with Impact. It didn't give it to us. Really? It's being obstinate. There we go. All right, let's refresh it and see what we get. Y'all like that, or do you want to do something different?
I think Verdana.
I don't know.
Huh?
Verdana. I think Verdana looks good.
You want to do with a Verdana? Okay. So there's a Verdana, Geneva, Tahoma. How about that? What do you guys think? That work? Okay, so we've got some basic font size. We've got the header specified. But we also now need to, we really need to work out like basic layout of our navigation. So let's add another CSS here, and we'll say nav, because we're specifying the nav element, and we're going to say that the overflow is hidden. Can anyone tell me what that's supposed to mean? Overflow hidden? Someone look it up. Tell me what you think that means.
Wait, where's the remaining content?
You guys talk amongst yourselves real quick and ask what overflow hidden is supposed to do. Okay?
All right, so from the top of my head, overflow hidden. It's when the child element has too much for the parent element to contain. So what it does is overflow here cuts that off, so that the parent element can contain that.
That's a whole lot of verbiage and gobbledygook. Did y'all get that?
Yeah, like I said, off the top of my head.
Yeah, off the top of your head. You just pull that out of there and okay. In essence, though, the idea is that if the content is too much, it'll cut it off, right? It hides it, right? Okay. So I went ahead and made another change. We got the background color we've set, okay? And the background color we have set to basically a black or something close to it. It's a grayish color. But now we need to go ahead and address another elephant in the room, and that is the font size of this menu. Right now it's kind of it's not really that great, right? But let's go ahead and address the rest of this navigation element first. So we're going to do nav, and then we're going to specify an anchor. And first of all, we're going to say float on the anchor is going to be left. So what am I floating? What does that mean? Float to the left. Let's save it and see what it does. Right now it's not really doing anything. It's all still on the left. But that's going to become important here in a moment. Let's do a display on this, and we'll set the display to block. Refresh it again. Nothing really changes. We'll set the color, because the default color of all links is blue, right? Let's set the color of this to something that has better contrast, white. Okay? Now we probably need to address some text aligning. Let's center these. Let's go ahead and set the padding on this. And we're going to specify a padding of 14 px and 16 px. Okay? So that's giving us something a little bit better visually. And then the last thing, let's remove the text decoration. So you go to text decoration and you just say none. All right, so now we have something that's a little bit better. I added this break earlier. Go ahead and remove the break in your HTML, okay? Because we want the navigation header to really set right there at the top of it. Okay. Everyone have something that looks about like this right now? Yeah. Yeah. Looks good. Looks good. Now I want to have a little fun with this, so I'm going to go out here to the web. And I'm going to look for a food SVG icon, white, transparent background. These are black. Those are all still good. Let's, what do you think? It's supposed to be a coffee shop, right? That kind of looks like a coffee, that's a weird coffee mug. That's soup, you're right. Let's just use this one for right now. Okay? So I'm going to do a file, save image as, and I'm going to navigate to NMC. Where are you at? Week 5 layouts. Is this a PNG? We're going to make sure it's a PNG. All right. And I'm going to do something different here. If you guys are using a Mac, I recommend using this great program called Paint. Yeah, this is not a free PNG because they didn't do it right.
Can I use it like something from Mark's Kitchen?
Sure. Oh, that's not the one though. That's a different Mark's Kitchen.
Oh shoot, which one?
Let me choose a different icon.
It's with a Z. Remember?
Oh.
View the file. Let me see if this will work. Yeah, this looks like a. Here we go. This is a good one. What I'll do is I'll paste the link here in a moment in that Google Doc, and then you guys can grab it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So let's see here. There's the link for that image. Okay, so you guys want to grab that image, you can. Where did you go? Hang on, I apologize, guys. I'm trying to reload my page here. Okay. So, if we look at what we have over here, which one is that one? Nope, I don't want that one. I'm going to delete that one. Yeah, move the trash. It is this one. Is that really not a transparent?
Straight to website.
Yeah, this is aggravating. Open with, hang on. All right. I'm gonna do something here, okay? You all just bear with me just for a moment. Copy. paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. I know you guys are like, I don't have that tool, Mr.
For the test.
Yeah. I will, I'll share the image with you, okay? I'll paste it out there once I got it. All right, let me just get this organized first. So we got. All right. I'm getting distracted here and not focusing on what's important, and this is bad. Okay, I'll paste the image here in a second, guys. Okay, and then you guys can grab it. Food icon.png. All right. I forgot to do something. Where are you at? Paint. I need white. There we go. Yeah, someone tried to. It doesn't matter. Yeah. They tried to put a watermark on it to keep us from doing this. But we have ways to defeat their... All right. You can use any image you want for right now. Let's just move on. All right, so here is the food icon. Looks a lot better. All right. So, in our header, I'm going to do a background image URL. And it is food icon.png. Okay. Now if we save this, it's going to be kind of weird. All right, you're going to see just that stroke. So we're going to say background image size, and we'll just say this is going to be, let's do a percentage, 10%. Okay, that's better. Background image repeat, none. Did I save it?
Oh.
What am I missing? No repeat. There we go. All right, closer, right? So if we look at the layout of Marv's Kitchen, there is your, right? It's kind of sized. All right. So let's do one other thing here. You got background image repeat, background. There's a bunch of options here. For right now, I think that's good enough. Okay, so we got something on Marv's Kitchen, a little food icon. We've got these elements. So now we need to kind of go back here to our HTML, and we're going to do a little bit of manipulation so that we have some layout. Okay.
You sent the image already?
No, I did not. I don't want to get too caught up in this because I want you guys to where did you go? Food icon. Elijah, do you have a question?
No.
There you guys go. You are now, you have access to the icon, okay?
Okay, can I see the code again? Back up, back.
All right, so if you want to add your icon, I just shared it to you through Google, you could download it.
Image size, like, what's it called?
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, background size, background repeat. Wait, let me just see that again. Background
All right.
size.
Let me do this for you, Elijah, because I don't want to get too caught up in this. We can just copy this and we'll paste it into the document, okay?
Okay.
That way,
Oh, it's just on
we can continue to move forward.
Okay.
Okay? Whoops. There you go. So there's the updates on the code if you want to go back to your Google document. All right? And okay. How many are still with me? You got all this so far?
Still not good.
Okay, so most of the code is pasted in the CSS file now. Okay. All right. What I want you to do though, let's go back to the standard layout HTML. Okay. And in the standard layout HTML, we're going to add some content. Okay. So inside our remaining content, we're going to add a div, and we'll call this, we'll give it a div like that, and we'll give it a class name, and we'll call it row. And inside of this, we'll do an H2, and we'll just call this column A. Oops, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Hold on.
Do another div, okay? And inside of that div, you're going to give this a class of column A. I apologize. There you go. Okay? Now inside of your div column A, go ahead and do an H2, and we'll just call this, let's call this background. And then we'll do a paragraph. Marv's, sorry, I forgot the Z. Kitchen exists because we want to. I don't know why it just did that. There we go. As we want to.
Mr. Roger,
Yes.
can you zoom out of the, that software? No.
Yeah, let me set the view size on this, okay?
I mean, I'm talking about the software for coding, I mean.
Hey, give me a second here. I'm gonna.
It should be.
All right. So make sure you save what you have so far. Okay.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and do a refresh, and we have this one section. All right. So after the div for column A, we're going to do another div. and give this a class and call this column B. Do another H2.
Wait, okay. Div after G.
Okay.
Div div class
Let's call this food stuff. Do a paragraph. We have the foods.
Okay.
Okay. Let's do another paragraph inside of it just so we have some content. We'll do lipsum. What is it? Dolor. Lorem ipsum. Okay. All right, we'll save that, refresh. We got some more stuff here, right? So far, it's not making sense to us. But let's go ahead and do one last column. Okay, div. Give it a class. We'll call this column C. Inside your tag, again, another H2 stuff we like. I have no idea. I'm trying not to offend Marv, okay? Do another lorem ipsum, just so we have content.
Okay.
All right? So let's just look at what we have so far. Okay? We got some basic content. I'm going to move this up for simplicity. There we go. Basic content. Okay. And right now the layout doesn't look too nice. So let's talk about how we would get the layout to be a little bit better from what we want, right? Okay. Are we good so far? Everyone with me?
No, not yet.
Okay. Tell you what I'll do is I'll copy this for right now, and I'm going to put this in the shared document. Okay, and you guys can grab some of that content from the shared document, so you can keep up with me. Does that make sense? All right. So I'm going to jump back over to our standard layout CSS. We're going to go down here to nav. Let's make a couple of other changes here. We're going to say nav a. We're going to use a pseudo class, right? For hover. And for our hover, we'll say background color is going to be white when we hover. And the foreground color is going to be green. All right, so if we refresh, we can see so far this is what we get. We get kind of this nice little, right? Now stylistically, this is important. On your menus, it's a good idea to think about the color sequences, that you reuse certain colors to keep things in sync with the eye. Okay? Okay? I'm going to copy this again and put it out there in the our CSS so you can. Okay? All right. So now let's talk about the layout. The layout here is important. What are we going to do to get the layout to look right? Well, we have to think about these columns, okay? And just like we used floating before, we're going to float some things again, okay? Not to be gross, but these are our floaters. All right, so we're going to, first of all, we're going to specify column A. Then column B. I'm separating these with commas, okay, because these are going to be all three, they're going to be addressed. And then finally, column C. Okay? And the first thing we want to do is just say float left. We want to specify a width on these, and since there's 3, what is a percentage that we could use dividing up these 3 elements on the page? If the page's width is 100%, what is a width that we could specify that all 3 of these are going to be? Real quick, anyone who's thirds, but what percentage number would I use? Yeah, very basic. Okay. So now when we do this, we get a column layout now. Okay. This starts to make more sense, but what are some other things we'd want? Well, if we look at this, some of this is so close that you can't tell, right? So we would probably want to add some padding. And a good padding for this is like 15px. Okay? Now, because of the way this is loaded, I'd have to spread this all the way out to possibly get it to load right. But for right now, it is the 15% is in between each of these, and there's not enough space over here, so it drops it down to the next line. So what we could do is maybe change the width to like 30%. Or maybe going down to, let's say, 25%. Now we get that all 3 of them are up on the same line. Okay? So your padding is going to affect how you get that layout. Okay. Let's look at the next thing that we'd probably want to address. Well, we have our headings. These are in, where are our headings at? Let's go back here real quick. These headings are in the main of a div, right? So let's do this. Let's say main H2. And let's set the background color. What's a good background color we should use that aligns with what we've already used? How about green? Okay. And we overrode before, remember the font size for our H2? So let's copy this, bring it down here again, paste that in. Let's just refresh and see what we have. Well, that is a little weird. And I shouldn't have did background, I should have just did color. There we go. There we go. Let's change the size of this down a little bit. Let's go down to a 1 point something. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Okay. All right, I'm going to copy this over to the document for those of you who are having, if you're behind me a little bit. Okay. Okay. It's updated in the Google Doc if you're trying to keep up with me here.
Where is it?
It's the Google Doc that I shared with you. Okay?
I remember you make a change before.
All right. Have you guys looked at media queries yet? A little bit? All right, let's introduce the media queries again. The media queries are basically a way for us to specify size based on which device you're on. So we're going to say media screen, and we're going to specify a max width of 600 px. So if the max width is 600 px, then we want some sizing to occur. And let's pull this over just a little bit. Okay.
Why is it?
Let's copy.
Yeah, it's red.
Here we go. Let me do this real quick. We'll format the document. There we go. So you notice I'm including column A, column B, and column C again. And I'm specifying that if the size of the document on a screen has a max width of 600%, then I want the width to be 50%. So if we refresh that, that's automatically going to have this effect, right? So let's do a little, let me give you a little example here. Let's see. I'm going to right click, inspect, and we're going to pull this all the way out just for a moment, just so you can see. Here he goes, toggle device setting. Okay. So I'm going to bring that over here. I'm going to set the dimensions. Let's see. Let's set it to an iPhone. This is the layout, the responsive layout we would see on an iPhone, right? If we set it to a Galaxy Fold, right? Or let's go to a responsive size, meaning this is the size of, say, a screen. So we want our web page to size appropriately depending on what device we're on. And in Chrome, you can actually use it to test out what it would look like, say, on an iPhone, what it would look like on a laptop or a tablet or whatnot. Okay? All right, I'm going to close that, minimize our screen again. Okay?
Media screen and max 600 width.
Okay.
600.
Elijah, this is also going to be pasted in the Google Docs. So if you get behind, just go there, okay?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. All right, everyone with me so far? Let's do one more media query. I'm just going to copy this, paste it down, and we're going to set this media query with a max size of 400 px.
Where did you put the media query?
Okay? And for this one, we're going to set it to 100%. So if the max size is 400 pixels, then we want 100%, right? So if we, depending on what we're at, it's going to change it. Okay? All right. This is, let me go ahead and copy this over. We'll put this over in our Google Docs so you guys can grab it for later.
No, why aren't you putting it at the end?
Okay? All right. So this is a standard default layout, okay? And depending on the size and what you have, it's going to set it up that way for you, okay? Any questions so far? Yes?
So how do you like center those paragraphs when you on the website it was on the left side, so how do I make it in the middle? You get what I mean, right?
Yep. Let's do this real quick. I forgot to, right? We center our H2s.
Can you put that in the Google document, please?
Uh-huh. main. Did I not paste that into the, here it is. Okay, we're running a little short on time, but let's go ahead and jump into the grid layout. Okay, so in the grid layout HTML, I want you to do the same thing again, HTML5. Okay. We're going to set the CSS for, we're going to set the title as grid layout. Go ahead and click on the Explorer right here. And we're going to create a new file. And this is going to be our grid underscore layout.css. I'm going to copy this so I have it. Okay. In my grid layout HTML file, first thing to do is do the link. I don't know what I did there. Let me do that again. Link, CSS, and I'm going to paste in my style sheet. Okay, very basic stuff so far. For our purposes, go ahead and go to Finder, and we're going to load the grid layout HTML. Okay, right now there's nothing there. So in your grid layout CSS, first thing first, you'd want to use your reset. But for time purposes today, we're just going to move right through with a standard grid layout. So we're going to say for, let's see, we're going to specify a grid container class. And we're going to use the display, but this is where we can use grid instead of block. And what grid does is it automatically uses everything on the page, and it assumes it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wrap, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, wrap, all the way down. And depending on how you specify it, you can specify the number of columns, you can specify the layout. So we're going to first of all set the display is grid, and our grid template for the columns is going to be auto, auto, auto. What that essentially means is it's going to be 3 columns that are automatically adjusted to fill the screen.
Is it automatically only 3 columns all the time?
If you say auto, 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 that's 4.
So as much as
Yeah. Auto, 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 right? If you want to get really tongue-tied, you could just have fun with it, all right? But in general, we're, 3.
Is there a way to like shorten it without keep on typing auto? Like what we want to make like 20?
There is. It's, I think, let's see. I believe it is, you specify the number. We can look it up and see, but let's just focus right now on what we have. Let's set the background for our purposes as gray. And the padding between all of our grids, let's specify 5px. All right. Right now, I've created a class that's going to contain these features. Okay? And this class is not used yet. Let's go ahead and paste this over here in our document so you guys can reference that. Whoops. Copy that again. There you go. So let's go back to our grid layout. And inside of our body, let's go ahead and do an H1. And we'll call this our HTML Geeks. and we're going to have a div, and the class for this, as you can expect, is going to be what? Grid container. Okay? So we'll specify that right there. Now, inside of our grid container, let's do another set of divs. And we're going to do this as div class, and we'll call this grid item, as you see here. Okay, and I'm going to do paste a 1. And then we will paste a bunch. Okay, we go back over to our page. Where was it at? Here's our grid layout. So far, we have one grid, right? And all of these ones.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, you could paste as many as you want at this point. But for our purposes, we'll just count these off so we can recognize which ones we're messing around with. Okay. All right, so we have that set. Let's go back to our grid layout. Okay. And let's specify a class for grid item. Let's set a background color. Let's do pink for right now to make it stand out. Okay. We'll do a border, 1px, solid black, and we'll specify a padding for each item of 20px. And then our font size could be really anything you want, but let's make it something that's visible. We'll do 30. And then our text align, we'll do a center. Okay. Last thing let's go ahead and specify our H1 that we have out here. And we're going to set the color on this as steel blue. And then a text align of center. All right. When we refresh that, this is what we get. Okay? So far, that is what we have set for layout. Now, let's take it and bring it out wider. And what do we have happen? Nothing. Okay.
Oh.
Oh, that's why. Duh. We took out our... Yeah, we only had one auto. I was like, I know we did this right. All right, there we go. All right, so it gives you that layout, right? All right. That gives us the ability to kind of wrap things the way we want to wrap them. Now, let's take this a step further. Let's say that we want a little bit more spacing, or You guys use Excel, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in Excel, you can say take this column and span across it, right? You can. You guys haven't used tables yet here in HTML. I don't think you have. Tables are coming up yet. Tables and grids kind of work the same way, except a table is a special type of tag. And you can do this same type of thing where you say span across so many grid elements or so many table cells. So if we're thinking about like our headers, our columns, and we want things to lay out in certain ways, we can use grid to actually specify where things set on the page in a grid layout. So let's do this. Let's bring this over like that. We have our grid so far. We have our layout. But let's take the classes that we have and let's call them something different. Let's call this, instead of item, we'll call it item 1. Item 2, item 3. You guys know where I'm going here, so you can jump ahead of me if you're a faster typer. Okay? And we are almost out of time, so I'm going to try to do this quickly. All right, we save that, we refresh. We still have our layout of 3, but we've lost a lot of that other pretty stuff, right? It's because we're not using this grid item anymore. So what we can do to get around that is we can say, let's do this. We can say grid container div, right? And we'll just copy this code and put it inside. Gives us the same thing, right? Gives us the flexibility to say, hey, for all of these child divs, do the same thing. But now let's go ahead and specify per item. So item 1, let's do a grid column start of 1 and a grid column end of 3. Let's refresh it and see what happens.
Hold on. Grid container.
See how that worked? It's actually now spanning that section. Let's make it 4. Save it, refresh. Now it takes up the whole thing. Now, this is kind of an odd quirk because you'd think in your mind, well, wait a minute, there's 3 columns. Why do I have to go to 4? You have to go to 4 because of the way the numbering works. It's trying to push things off to the 4th space.
Oh, so it like wraps around.
Yeah. Okay. So we could do that, but now we can also do some other interesting things. Like we can say, hey, for item 2, let's set a grid row start of 2 and a grid row end of 5. You can begin to see how now you can lay out your pages in a manner that forces all of the elements to be in a grid. Now, this doesn't work as well when you're doing small displays, because when you're in a small display, it's like, what does that say in that tiny little box? But what you would do, though, is you would set a media query, right? And in the media query, you would just say, hey, don't use the grid. Just use a standard display block instead to position it down the screen. Does that make sense? Okay, any questions? All right, for our purposes, I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and I'll paste it over in the CSS so you guys can see it for your following along. Okay, so today we've looked at two ways of laying out our pages, right? We've got a default way. This is the old-fashioned way of doing things. And we have the grid layout way. And it all depends on what you're trying to do, right? If you're trying to maybe create a game in JavaScript, maybe you want to use a grid because it's easier to specify the layout of the page and where content's going to be. Or maybe you're trying to do something that's only designed for browsers, right? It all depends on how you want to tackle the problem. Okay? All right. That is what we have for today. Let's go over real quick the reading assignment this week. Did Gavin ever come in? No? Okay. All right. Let's go over the reading assignment this week. You're basically looking at these different types of layouts and so forth. All right. Midterm exam is going to be due the end of week 6. Okay, midterm exams due the end of week 6. And your midterm exam should cover weeks 1 through 5. I'm not sure if it'll cover 6 yet. Okay?
So, just to be clear, the end of week 6 is Sunday.
Next week.
Next week, Sunday.
Yeah, well, for us, we're kind of pushing it to like Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
So, just to be safe, Tuesday.
Yeah. So next week is the start of week 6. We're ending week 5 like Wednesday of next week. Next Friday is week 6, the class, and then Tuesday or Wednesday is when the exam will be.
Oh, and the midterm exam,
Okay.
will it be in class or will it be
It'll be on your own.
Okay, and is it due, like does it have a due date, like
You have to do it that day.
that day?
Yeah, you have to do it that day before midnight. Guys, the exam is due that day before midnight,
What day?
the day I assign it.
All right.
Yeah, it's,
Okay?
copy the code from the Visual Studio Code and then paste it on Google Docs, please.
It is.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Are you talking about the HTML?
And CSS.
All right, so this is the HTML.
Can we switch to
Mr. Rogers, can we?
all the way number?
There we go. Guys, before you all leave, though, I need to make sure we go over everything that is necessary for this next week. Some of you I'm trying to be kind about this. Some of you are not doing the assignments outside of Cengage, and you're waiting like 2 to 3 weeks to come back to me and say, hey, can I turn these in? No, you can't. Okay? If you're waiting 2 to 3 weeks to come back to me, those assignments that are...
Wait, on Cengage?
Let me give you an example. Like this assignment here, that assignment has a due date and a cutoff date. The Cengage assignments don't. But assignments like these, like where I say, hey, go out and create a website and post it on Infinity free or triple web 0, those have a confined date. I cannot just extend it indefinitely because I'll never get grading done. Okay? The Cengage assignments are auto-graded. Don't get behind, because that's a good way for you to fail. Because when they ask me, well, why did they fail? I'll say, well, they never did their homework. They never submitted. Okay? Same thing for quizzes. The quizzes have defined dates. You have to get them done. Don't let them linger.
Tuesday.
All right. If you don't have any questions, I will see you later. If you have questions, just come after class and talk to me.
Hello, I have a question. The two questions in that set.